Hello, and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help you establish your author brand, increase the size of your audience, and sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here as usual with Jeffrey Poole and Joe Lalo, and we have a guest this week, Carolyn Gockel, probably mangling her name. She's often goes by C. Gockel on keyboards and pretty much everywhere around that I've seen her. And before I ask her some questions, here's a quick intro from her that I stole professionally from her Amazon page. She got her start writing fan fiction, and she's not ashamed of that much. She received emails, messages, and reviews from her fans telling her she should do this professionally. She didn't because she was a coward, and life as a digital designer, copywriter, and coder is more dependable. But in the end, her husband's nagging wore her down. You could be the next 50 Shades of Grey, and I could retire. Unfortunately, the author isn't much for writing smut. She is sad about this. She'd love for her husband to be able to retire and just work for her so she could nag him. All right, welcome to the show, Carolyn. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have to say, in fan fiction land, smut doesn't have like a negative connotation. It's like, bring it on, the smut. I just can't write it. I hope it doesn't have a negative connotation in the traditional land. I guess you could call it erotica. Maybe I should change it. I wish I could.
I think if you say smut, people know.
I mean it in a...
Yeah, that's where the big money is. All right, well, we'll just to get things started, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about when you started writing and how you got your start?
So I think I started writing in 2009, and I started writing because there wasn't enough Spock Uhura in the world. So you know, it was 2009. The economy was in a recession. I had a little time on my hands, and I just started writing. And it was kind of like a game to see, you know, could I do it? Could I make something interesting? Would people actually read it? And I wrote one of the more famous Uhura fan fictions at that time, and you know, it was really fun. And I went on from there to write Sarah Amanda, and I wrote all these fan fictions. And my husband really, I mean, I was, it's kind of a joke, but not really, that he really nagged me into writing an original fiction. He just, start writing for free, you know, over my shoulder. You can make some money with this. So I published Murphy Star, my first short story. I believe it was probably 2011, December of 2011, and it actually sold some. I was so disappointed it wasn't an overnight sensation that my little 20-page short story didn't take off. You know, I didn't know how well it did, actually. I didn't realize that getting 2 sales a day with a short story nobody's ever heard of you is actually a great thing. Kind of put it back on the back burner, tried some other stuff. People read it and they're like, yeah, this isn't so good. And some original fiction, and I wrote more fan fiction, and then, you know, he started nagging me again, and so I started writing I Bring the Fire, and I didn't really expect much to happen with it. I expected 2 sales a day, and, you know, I thought, you know, hey, maybe in about 10 years I'll have a solid income from this. You know, I'll have like 50 books and selling 2 a day of each. I'm actually right at the cusp of being professional. Like, I've had a couple good months, and I don't know how long this will continue, but so it's been, I think I published the first part of I Bring the Fire in 2012, so instead of my 10-year plan, it kind of condensed into 2 years. And it's been great. I don't know if I'll be able to officially make the jump or keep the jump. I'm finishing up my series, the I Bring the Fire series now. The final installment is in edits, and I've got a lot of great fans. I'm not like, my Facebook following is maybe 600 people. I'm not huge, but I'm still managing to actually make some decent money right now. Don't know why. But when I started out, I was working. I have 2 children, and I have limited time. I don't really have a lot of time to do things like blogging. So I had to rely on I had to rely on promo sites. You know, I got lucky. I got into BookBub my first try with my Perma-free, and that was what really like made me realize, oh my God, I just have to give away a lot of these books, and if I do that, I can make a lot of money. And actually, doesn't work quite that easily. You know, you get a BookBub month, and you think, woo, I can go professional now. But you know, not every month's a BookBub. But with every single release, everything builds, and you know, I wrote I Bring the Fire, I was selling maybe 2 a day. When I wrote Monsters, the second installment, I was selling maybe 4 a day. And when I wrote Chaos, I was selling maybe 3 a day. But then when I went perma-free, you know, it grew.
Awesome. Well, I know you're having some great success, and I see you're really dedicated to the marketing, and we're totally going to ask you some questions about what you've been doing. Congratulations on, you know, having those great months and getting to the point where it's professional income. That's great.
Yeah, almost. I'm almost there.
But almost. So I guess for those who don't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about your main series? That it's urban fantasy, or kind of in between the cracks, maybe?
It is urban fantasy. It does. I love your story, your series, Lindsay, because it falls between the cracks too. Like your series, there isn't really a good or evil. I really, you know, people say they start writing out of a place of love. I always start from a place of hate, and I just hate like black and white, and I hate the idea of chaos being characterized as necessarily evil, because it isn't. Chaos is it's a necessary ingredient to life, and without change, nothing grows. I mean, things that stay the same can actually be quite horrible unless, I mean, if you're thinking about human societies that don't change can be dreadful for the people who are at the bottom. And without change and constant renewal, and people moving up and down the ladder, I think societies become stagnant, and they become more at risk for more violence. I think that you can put the lid on the pot, but eventually, I think it's better to keep the lid a little bit open, or it will explode. And I think that's one of the big part of this series is exploring that idea of the balance between chaos, destruction, creation, and order. So, and it is urban fantasy, but there are flashbacks, and so it has a little bit of traditional sword and sorcery going on. There is science. I have to make magic in my head. I have to make it realistic for myself. So there's discussions of quantum theory, which my fans really like. I mean, I guess that's one thing great about self-publishing. Some people are like, you know, you really couldn't write that because, you know, that's too much. But my fans really like it. And there are people out there, you know, if you have like a strange interest or niche, there are people out there, if you find them, that will like it.
Yeah, that's for sure the great thing about self-publishing is that even if you're kind of between two genres or two niches, you know, there may totally be an audience out there that wants to read that. But if you were trying to find an agent, they'd just be like, no, sorry, that's not enough. You know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer or whatever. So.
Yeah, I mean, I never tried to find an agent. It was just, I just wanted my husband to leave me alone, and so I wrote a story. There are so many people, I think you could have, I don't think my success is like really that great. I think other people who go into it knowingly, like, I just went ahead and I wrote what I wrote, and I wrote it third person present tense, which is very strange and unusual tense, and I hear some people say it makes them want to gouge out their eyes. Other people say things that are even less nice than that. I just went in without a plan. I just wrote it all down. I think if I had gone into it with a plan, an idea, and a direction, and thinking that it could, you know, maybe be bigger sooner, it would have gone better. But you know, it worked out in the end, obviously. And I know some people have like put $10,000 into a first release. Oh my God, I can't even imagine that. And they haven't seen a return. I think I put $15 into stock art for my first release, And I have seen it return, so it's okay.
All right, well, that sounds good. I'm going to pass you over to Joe and Jeff, ask a couple of questions about the fan fiction stuff before we jump into the marketing.
Okay.
All right. So a lot of talk about fan fiction already. I guess first, what were your favorite settings to write in, and why did you choose them?
Oh, I wrote Star Trek, the reboot, Spock Uhura, because I just love that relationship. I wrote, I do like science a lot, and so I was able to play with the science, and all of my stories do play with science a lot. Then I wrote a little bit of Star Wars because I didn't like the Jedi Order and how they had those weird boarding schools for young Jedi, and I thought that was really disturbing. So I wrote a story called Epidemic, and it was about how horrible those little boarding schools were. I mean, it actually stars Luke Skywalker and a stormtrooper further in the future, and him discovering that he discovers something about the Force and another secret that Obi-Wan kept from him. Then I've written in Narnia too, and then I wrote in the Thor fandom. And when I started writing in the Thor fandom, that's when I discovered Loki. I did discover Loki through the Thor movies. And I think Tom Hiddleston, he gives a brilliant performance, but I actually thought, like, idealizing his character was kind of weird and strange, because to me he seemed kind of like a spoiled boy, and not somebody who, personally I would consider for a romantic interest. And then I started reading the myths, and the more I read the myths, the angrier I got at Marvel, because they totally warped the personality of Loki. And they made him into something. They made him into a prince when he was never a prince. He was never Odin's son. He was more likely his blood brother. And if you read like really old myths about him, the things that he was Odin's equal, and he was who they brought in when nobody else could solve a problem. You called on Loki. And I mean, even some of the things they talk about, like the story of the wall that they built around Asgard, and people always say, well, it was Loki's horrible idea to offer Freya's hand in marriage to the giant who built the wall. Well, the thing was, if you read other interpretations of that story, nobody had any ideas. They spent all their money building this glorious, beautiful city, and then they forgot to build the wall, and they had no money to build it. So, Loki, it's like, hey, we'll offer Freya, but we'll make the terms so impossible that he'll never be able to make it. The builder actually has a magical horse that helps him build the wall, and Freya's going to be offered up in marriage, and so Loki turns himself into a mare, and 10 months later gives Odin a little 8-legged horse steed as a pet. Now, everybody makes fun of Loki, but again, the thing about that story is nobody else had any other ideas. It was the end. But there's other wonderful stories like Loki and the Giant, where Odin and Honor, who is forgotten by Marvel for the most part, but he was the creator of man. Odin and Honor tried to save this little boy whose parents had lost him in a wager to a giant, and Odin and Honor, the two biggest gods, can't save the child, but Loki does. Loki figures out a way to kill him, and he basically did it for the hugs. It was a peasant, and he just did it for the hugs, and that's basically how the story went. Paganism is a living religion, and there's some people who still, if you talk about Loki, they'll be like, no, he's the devil. But that was more the influence of Christianity on him, and maybe Marvel's, and Marvel probably looked at those Christian influence myths. And Christianity, wherever it went, it tried to shoehorn the local religion into Christianity. And so what the Snorri did was, one of the big monks in the 13th century who wrote down the myths, was, he made Odin, God, Balder, his son, into Jesus and Loki into the devil, which was not really a position he deserved.
I was gonna say, like when we started talking about Loki, and I knew the myth involving him turning into a horse, and I gotta say that he's probably like he's supposed to be the god of mischief. I really think he should be the god of thinking outside the box because that's quite a solution to come up with.
Yeah, he turned himself into a gnat to find a necklace for Odin, and in most of the myths, he was actually mostly kind of Odin's helper. And when he deceived the gods, it was usually because he was under some oath. That is something that Loki always kept his oath. The one thing I did get from Marvel was that, in the Marvel series, Loki turns blue because he's a frost giant. And I started thinking, well, what other gods of chaos do I know of? Oh, Shiva. And Shiva was in a trinity too. There's a Shiva, Krishna, or Vishnu. They're the same guy, and Brahma trinity. And it was interesting because I just pulled it out of my hat, but I started studying Hinduism, and I can't tell you because it's revealed at the end of my last book, but there's actually some linguistic evidence. Really strong linguistic evidence that Loki and Shiva, like paganism might be really not as flattering to the gods version of Hinduism. There is some really strong linguistic evidence that Loki and Shiva could have been like an idea that came from the same tribe. But I think Hinduism is there's more Hindu people, and so it's a bigger, deeper religion right now, and it's very much alive and changing. Whereas, we know the myths about the Nordic gods from monks who wrote a long time ago, and I don't know, Hinduism seems much bigger and more dynamic to me. So I wouldn't really say Loki is Shiva because Shiva doesn't have the trickster in him, and also I think Shiva is more self-aware than Loki. But that's one thing that happens through my story is he becomes more self-aware.
Well, that's sort of a good transition to the next part of the question. Do you feel that what do you feel you can learn from writing fan fiction, like as an author?
Well, you can learn about pacing, about writing cliffhangers. And not my first book. Some people say, well, it's actually the full story, but it's like she plunked in the next part and makes you want to buy it. Maybe. But every chapter, every section break should end on a question that makes you want to read further. And fan fiction, you get immediate feedback in the form of reviews, so you can see what worked and what didn't work.
All right, that's good information. Like quick feedback, especially it's something you also get with self-publishing. So it's good that it sort of prepares you for self-publishing.
You get more. You get a lot more on fandom than you would.
Well, it seems like it's a more collaborative community.
Yes.
One more question, and I'm going to pass you off to Jeff. Let's say that there are people watching who poured their heart and soul into a fan fiction, and they created like a novel-length fan fiction they're very proud of. Do you think it's better to take the 50 Shades route and modify that into original work, or do you think your first original work should be original from scratch?
Actually, I Bring the Fire. There was an original fiction that was really bad, or a fan fiction that was very flawed because I had started it with one idea and then ended with another. And I've taken it down, but it was kind of the basics groundwork for I Bring the Fire. And people were saying that people were either hated it or they called it epic, and so I figured it was such a strong reaction, that it was a good candidate to switch over. And it meant I could perfect the story and make it better, and it also meant I could continue. If you've read my series, there's a big event that happens at the end of book 3, and I knew it would never play in fandom, but in real life, it's done really well because it left the original characters behind and moved on. So Yeah, and it's been great because like after part 3, it's kind of really it's all me, and it really gave me some confidence that as I start my next trilogy, that I can do it.
All right, excellent. Well, Jeff, on to you.
All right, I've got a question for you. Do you find that your books end up in the hands of a specific type of reader, maybe like a specific age range that you've noticed? I mean, I don't know, it might be kind of hard to tell from reviews or like word of mouth or whatnot. But I'm just kind of curious if by chance you have noticed that. Have you done anything to try maybe like widen the range and maybe try and target somebody else that wouldn't ordinarily pick up that type of book and read it? I've noticed that with mine, where I mean, I wrote it in the terms of for adults and whatnot, which a lot of them read it, but there's someone that's like, oh yeah, this should be geared towards young adults, or all these young adults like it, and you should write just for young adults. I'm like, yeah, I'm more of trying to get as generic as possible to encompass everybody as possible. But I'm just kind of wondering if you had that. Have you ever noticed anything like that?
So I've noticed that most of my readers are female, 35 and above, and I think that's true for a lot of people. My male readers are almost always veterans, the ones who are positive, and I don't know if veterans tend to read more. I don't know, Lindsay, if you can comment on that, but I have a lot of veteran fans, which is is so flattering to me. Especially, guys talking about being on long deployments and how your books have helped them. That's really great. But I've noticed that sometimes when younger fans read my books, they do not review them as positively. I have a few of my fans have given it to their children to read, which there's no explicit sex in my books, but there's off-screen things happen. And I was kind of surprised, but apparently I have some very young fans too who must be just very mature, and they don't, their parents don't mind them reading it because it's not graphic, and I think I handle it in an adult way. I don't really have any plans to reach out and be more general. I think that I have a nice niche. People like my stories. They say that they say it makes them laugh. They say it makes them think, and they say it makes them feel. Now, I don't. I think there's enough people like that I don't really need to expand. And sometimes the younger readers, I think, who are looking for a more traditional paranormal romance, I think some of them love it. And my crazy covers, Lindsay and I both have covers that we've discussed where we need to have them changed, and we need more graphics. And I am going to change my covers, but because my cover features, it's just basically orange with little dinosaurs at the bottom of it, you can barely see Loki faded in the background. I've caught some people who are fans of literary fiction and historical fiction, and they have really enjoyed it. So I've gotten outside the paranormal box probably even more than I've gotten inside the paranormal box. And I don't really see myself like targeting younger readers or more general readers. I think I'd like to write for the readers I have now. I think they're great. They're awesome. I can discuss quantum physics on my Facebook page and everybody gets excited. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I feel the same way with regards to my own. Everyone says, you should try and do this, or you should try and tone it down to include like the real young kids. I'm like, you know what, I'm comfortable where it is. And same thing, I can make people laugh. I can make people think, that's a really cool story. I'm looking forward to the next one. I don't really need to see. I already know full well, becoming an author, that you're not going to please everybody. So if you like it, great. If you don't like it, hey, move on to the next one or something. So
Yes.
that's just me, though. Have you ever taken a suggestion given to you by someone else, say in your case your husband, and developed it into a story? Because in my case, every once in a while my wife comes up to me and goes, got your notebook handy? I've got a really good idea for a story. I'm like, not bad at all, dear. And I write that one down, and I will eventually turn it into a story. I'm just curious if that happens for anyone else besides me.
No, mine usually comes from things that I read about, or I see in the news, or things maybe that aren't, like, they're not fan fiction, but things that bother me that I see in movies. and I find ways to work it into a story. But my husband, he's inspiration for me in lots of other ways because he comes up with great one-liners that I throw into all my work. But he doesn't come up with big plot ideas, no.
Yeah, because my wife she always, one of my characters is based off of her, just like it's also one's based on me, and she'll read my stories there. And it's like, or proofread it for me. She's like, okay, that's nice. I would never say this. This is what I would say. I'm like, get out my notebook. Got it. No problem. No, I'll change the verbiage. Not a problem there. So, have you used, when you first self-published, did you use, like, for instance, did you go straight to Amazon with the KDP, or did you like try going through Smashwords? Who did you start out with?
I started out with Lulu and Amazon. I think I started out with Amazon, then I went to Lulu to get on Barnes and Noble and iTunes, and for a while I went back to straight Amazon. And I would really advise people who are just starting out, if I were you, I would start with just Amazon and until you get at least 3 books out and go wide. I'm actually seriously considering for my next trilogy, which is going to be science fiction and out of the mythology-based storylines. I've actually thought about doing KDP and Select just to get in there with a strong burst of instant sales or borrows or whatever, and then migrating out after the 3rd book is out.
Have you ever considered using, I mean, have you used a place like Smashwords to try and get it out to as many of those little smaller distributors?
Yeah, now I use Smashwords, but yeah, Draft to Digital is very enticing. It's very easy. I think that I'll probably be moving everything direct with Kobo, and I've thought about it with Apple, but I do have a lot of great reviews right now on Apple, so I'm not quite as certain about Apple about going direct. Barnes and Noble, I don't know. I tried using their interface once, and after several hours, I was just done.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, if I did it with Amazon, I could do it with some of these other retailers. I chose Barnes and Noble first. I'm looking at all that. There's many hoops. I'm like, you know what? We'll table this for another time. There, I'll just I'll let Smashwords deal with them for right now. Eventually, I'd like to switch and do it direct.
Yeah, I do go direct with Google too, but I just take a PDF or an EPUB I made someplace else and post it up there.
Yeah, that's what I do with them too. It works good. All right, so we're on to marketing, and I'll pass you back over to Lindsay here.
All right, cool. Let's get to the good stuff here. I suppose I should answer your question. I don't know about, did I get that many veterans or people who are active duty guys? But I get a lot of emails from retired guys, so I think those are the ones that have more time to read. I don't know. Or they're the ones that email me.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah, I'd love to ask you, I know you also do the book one for Perma-free, and I was just kind of wondering, did you decide that fairly early on, and what kind of help has that been for you?
Perma-free has changed my life. And it's, I don't think it's where it was before because of the way they changed. Do you remember when they used to have the free books right next to the paid books? Because when I was in Select and I did a couple of free days, I was right next to the paid books, so you're right on that one page, and I was doing really well. And then, I did a couple of selects, and without any advertising except on my personal Facebook page, because I didn't have a mailing list, and I didn't have a professional Facebook page, and I don't know if I even had Tumblr. I think I had Tumblr at that point. I'd get like 3,000 downloads. Bam! I was like, wow, this would be so easy if I was free all the time. But of course, now I have to work to get 1,000 downloads a month on Amazon. The thing is my sell-through rate has increased so much with time, and I guess it's because people see that you've got more books out, they have more faith that you're going to finish, or that more people have heard about you, or they've just seen you around longer, and they're like, oh, damn, goofy dinosaurs, I might as well see what this is about. I don't know. There are dinosaurs in my North. Gee, I worked them in. They're important in the last book. Yeah. It's so it has. It has, yeah, it's totally changed my life. It's a lot easier to advertise in Perma-free because you don't have to worry about select price matching or, because sometimes people have had bad things happen with the free days and the countdown. You don't have to worry about that. You're free all the time. You just, so when you're filling out the forms for all the different sites, I've got about 90 I hit up. Those are just the free ones. It's really easy. You know it's going to be free. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I definitely remember the good old days when the top 100 free were right there next to the top 100 paid. So if you
Yeah.
could get on the top of that list, yeah, as you were saying, you definitely have to do some more advertising these days to get people to notice your free book. So could you tell us a little bit like what your strategy is? I know you kind of hit up the different advertisers, I don't know, on a monthly cycle, or what are you doing for that?
I try not to hit up the same place more than once every 90 days, and ideally once every 120 days. And I guess that's my biggest thing. But I do hit up this month because I thought I'd have a new release, but it's probably not going to make it until early March. I didn't advertise because I'm going to have a new release soon. I'll just take it in the gut this month, and hopefully next month I'll have more places. I can hit the people I would have hit up on February. I can hit them all up on March, and hopefully I'll get a bigger burst.
Right, and I will say that one of the cool things about having multiple series going, even though you're under more pressure because you have all these things going on, is that you can kind of hit up your book one like more often. You can go to BookBub and ENT and some of those because you've got a different book to offer them up. So
I am so excited. I'm going to have my next trilogy out. I mean, even if it doesn't earn as much as I Bring the Fire does, I'll have something that I can add. I'll be able to make it those 120 days between each advertisement because I'll have another book, and I'm already working out a schedule in my brain for how I'll push it. And I think it'll be great too. I mean, are you seeing spillover from one series, from your sci-fi series into Lindsay Baroker? I know you write under a pen name, or do the streams never cross?
so far, I have not told the pen name people about my regular name, but I did tell the regular people about the pen name stuff, and some of them went over there. That's the more smutty erotica kind of, well, not erotica, but detailed behind the doors scenes. But just with my other series, though, I found that, like, I had a BookBub ad last month for my steampunk Dragonblood series, and it's harder to tell at Amazon, but at Barnes & Noble, where BookBub can really make a big difference and kind of help you stick for a while, I noticed that a lot of people were, read those and also read the other book. They've been buying the books in the other series too. So I'm like, why can't that just happen every month? That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I'll be happy when I have a trilogy and a series done. So excited about that.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to hand you to Joe and Jeff for some more questions on marketing.
Okay.
All right. So we've heard about your the way you advertise your perma-free. What's your policy on your non-free books? Do you ever discount and put those up for ads?
I do occasionally. I did it for Monsters. I actually left, which is this book, part 2 in my series, and I put it at 99 cents, and it's still at 99 cents. I did it for BookBub, and it actually worked so well that I just never raised the price. But occasionally, I have a novella called In the Balance, and I actually did just a 99-cent sale just for 24 hours, and I just told my fans about it, and they told people about it, and I got a boost of sales. I got a burst of free perma-free downloads, and I got sales of that. It hiked up the charts, so that was back on the first page. And the next day, when I raised it back to $2.99, my sales were still high. So exposure really does matter. But yeah, I will probably do an omnibus eventually, and do what Lindsay occasionally does with BookBub, is advertise the omnibus of probably parts 1 through 3, and sell that.
Okay, I think it's a good policy. I want to do an omnibus as well, but I'm having some pipeline problems with my artists, and I want a specific cover for it. So it's on my to-do list.
Yeah. No, I had one, but it was too hard if I caught an editorial mistake to make it like here and here and here and here and here. And especially when you're still working, you kind of have to just like choose your battles. And I didn't feel like that was one worth conquering at that moment.
Yeah, it was when you're still at work and like when you're not pro, you really, I mean, even when you are pro, you really have to try to find the things that have the best return for investment on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of return on investment, do you see value in discounting multiple? Would you say there's value to discounting multiple books at the same time and sort of advertising different books in parallel?
I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would advertise that, like advertising more than book 2. I'm not sure that that would be a good idea because I don't know how many people are going to buy book 3 at 99 cents unless like book 2 and 1. And if you're already advertising book 1, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would spend the money. I did do a pretty good promotion with ebook Butterfly, and they did part 1 free and part 2 for 99 cents. And my results were really good, really, really, really good. And they told me not to tell, and I'm like, I can tell people your numbers and they're like, no, because we can't promise this to anyone. We've never done this before. We're not sure. We need more data. So I mean, they're actually a really nice group of people. They've recently been raked over the coals on K-boards, but they're really nice and really legit. They just don't want to give false promises.
All right, that's responsible of them to rein in and not overpromise. One last question before I give it to Jeff is: you say you've got a lot of research and a spreadsheet of sort of indie and budget and free-friendly advertisers. Have you seen any of them sort of price themselves in and off that list or change their policies so they became more or less useful?
I promised Lindsay that I would not say anything bad about any advertiser. So I will not answer that question directly. Okay. I will tell you that you should probably go on K-boards. If anything over $10, you should go on K-boards and probably ask around. And there are some sites out there that I really feel are cheating people. And maybe they're not deliberate, but I mean, maybe because there are some advertisers who I think don't really understand the industry. They just saw BookBub and they thought, I can charge $150 out the gate. And then others I think maybe are just, trading. There was, what's his name? Rich Dad Poor Dad guy was in the self-publishing business for a while, promoting self-publishing. And, he was saying things like, basically you're boutique publisher, and, so it became a get-rich-quick scheme, self-publishing, which, I think especially if you're in fantasy and sci-fi, most definitely is not. You better love it because, chances of getting rich quick are slim and none. Although I will say that I was recently there was a professional author, we're all professionals, but traditionally published author in fantasy, and she published her earnings for her series. I think it was a trilogy, and I was shocked to see that it was a well-received series, and she has much more publicity than me, and she probably doesn't write in third-person present tense, and there are no dinosaurs, but she has made less money than I have, and I was really shocked, and I think that probably in a lot of the niche genres that's going to be true, that you can probably make more money self-publishing than traditionally publishing. Here's what I would look for, though. Okay, if you're looking into the site and you're thinking about spending money on it, first of all, I don't think tweets work. I don't think there were some sites that like they offer tweets in addition to what I think was a strong email presence and a strong website presence and a strong Facebook presence, and I included them on a list. But I did find some advertisers when I was researching it who only do tweets. I did not include them. I just don't feel it. I don't feel tweeting works. I still think Facebook works. I think Facebook posts still work. I think different advertisers work better for different genres. I love vampire novels. I have no vampires in my book. My cover isn't sexy. Still awesome, great, fantastic, wonderful sell-through. I don't. I have to say that, you know, for me, if you get less than 100 downloads per $10, I consider that a bust. For some people, though, they want a download per penny, which is obviously a lot. They want a lot more than I do. But again, over time, your sell-through increases for whatever reason. I don't know why.
All right. Well, that finishes my questions for this section, so now I'll just pass you on to Jeff.
Alrighty. Do you have any experience in creating multi-author bundles, you know, with someone else, including your book with someone else? And if you have, do you think it's been beneficial to you?
I've had good and bad experiences with that. I'm in one bundle right now called the Paranormal 13, and it's been wonderful. And it was just a whole bunch of people. We put our books together. We did it really quick, and I definitely see sell-through from it. And I have people who when I have people sign up for my mailing list, I ask how they heard about me, and quite a few have said that it's from the Paranormal 13. I was almost in another bundle, and they just decided that they didn't want to deal with price matching, and so they asked if somebody would step down, and because they had too many, the file size was too large to be 99 cents, and so I did step down because they were talking about a lottery to kick people out. I've read this, you know, in high school I had to read that sci-fi story, The Lottery, you know, where the person gets stoned at the end. And I'm like, okay, a lottery isn't the ethical way to do this. I'm just going to step down, we'll skip the drama, and I'll move on. It was a horrible experience, though, because I had based all of my advertising plans for the next month on that. And so my feelings on multi-author bundles is it's worth a shot, might not work out at all, and that's what I've heard from some other people that so they've been in some bundles where they got really bad reviews or from it, or no sell-through, nothing, they didn't notice any return, and so I think it really depends on who you're with. If you're with a group of people that are all like, yeah, let's promote this, let's all get together, let's work hard, and they have some savvy, and they have I don't have that big of following. You know, they don't even need that big of following, but they have to be kind of willing to work. That's the hard thing.
Makes sense. With regards to Perma-free, since that seems to be a good way to get your name out there, do you feel a new author should wait until he has more than two titles in the same series before he tries to make a book one perma-free, or do you think it matters? Like, for instance, if they're getting ready to write book number 2, or they're ready to release book number 2, should they make book number 1 free, or maybe wait a little bit and try and wait and get a few more titles?
I would say wait until you have at least 3 titles. You're going to get an initial burst. You want to make most of that initial burst. It'll never be that easy again.
Good to know. That's pretty much what I've discovered with my own. I jumped the gun a little bit, but it still worked out all right there.
Yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit too, just by accident, because people told me, oh, it takes months. It took 3 days. 3 days for my book to be made perma-free. So I was planning on it going perma-free the day my my 3rd book came out. But it takes days now. Just email support.
I hear you. Okay, let's see here. If you're considering creating an ad with an advertiser, how soon before a title is released will you plan on releasing that ad? You know, the same week, the week before, and once you let them go, I mean, do you have like a set time for every single ad to let it run, say a week, a month? I mean, how do you work that?
Okay, I don't usually do ads that like run over a period of time because people see it like if like a banner at the top of the page, if people see it every day. I worked in advertising before, and when you first put out a banner, everybody clicks, and then they forget about it. So I hardly ever do ads that'll be over a period of time. I do, I advertise, I only have one title that I can really promote right now, and that's my Perma-free, and I haven't had a release in 6 months. So, I mean, I advertise without a release, but this month, because I was expecting a release, I purposely laid off so that hopefully I'll get a bigger burst when I advertise with more people, because the higher you go, the more people are going to see you. Somebody on Keyboard said it beautifully. It's like you're probably going to get more readers as you flutter down through the rankings, and people who would be naturally inclined to get your book, whether or not it was free, pick it up, and those become your true fans.
Have you ever had more than one book perma-free at the same time, or is it just one for one free at the time?
I've only had one.
Good to know. All right, that concludes my questions. I believe we'll pass it back over to Lindsay.
Hey, Carolyn, one thing I wanted to mention to the listeners is I forgot to ask about your spreadsheets. And I don't know if you want to briefly kind of talk about what you're doing there, and I'll put the links in the show notes so anybody can come to marketingsff.com to get the links that she's going to talk about here.
Okay, the spreadsheet is very important. I go through the spreadsheet, and I have, I have another version of it for myself, where I have actually a schedule of who I hit up when. Now, I created, because I was in marketing, something I know, mailing lists are gold. Facebook, especially when I first started the spreadsheet, is really important for selling. And the other thing is that how many people hit a site at a given, during a given month is also going to show you how much exposure you're going to get. So I created a spreadsheet for free giveaways, and I went through and I did a traffic estimate by just going to trafficestimate.com, which has limited reliability, but it's going to give you a general guess, of how much traffic a particular site gets. And I also did a count of their Facebook following. And I also, one thing you should look at if you look at Facebook following, because if you see a new advertiser, like if they have 10,000 followers and nobody is interacting, it's a bum page. Just, if they're charging money, they probably should maybe not pay them. So I put the spreadsheet together, and it's organized by the combination of sites, the number of hits per month that a site gets, and Facebook following. BookBub is God. They're king. They're still king. But there still are great sites out there. I guess I should say one. Yeah. And that is, there's a lot of people say you have so many things that you need to do as an author. You're supposed to have a newsletter every month. You're supposed to blog every month. You're supposed to Facebook every day. But especially if you're busy and you're working, and almost everybody is when they're first starting out, you can't do that. That's impossible. So instead of trying to build a following, if you go to some place like a newsletter, they already have following. They already did that work for you. If you can get them to pick up your work, you're going to get, for the investment, the time investment, you're going to get a lot more returns.
All right. Excuse me. It's my thing every show. I get a hoarse throat and cough sometimes during the introduction. But we had another group of questions we were going to ask you about social media and kind of blogging stuff, but we're already kind of getting close on the hour here. Do you have a few more minutes, or
I have a few.
Are you locked in your office now? Okay, guys, do you want to we'll each pick one question from our list and go ahead and ask her about the kind of social media stuff. The one I was curious about is Tumblr, which I don't know too many authors that are really on that platform. I was wondering if you could tell us why you picked it and what it offers that maybe some of the other blogging platforms don't.
So I picked Tumblr because my Fanfiction fans were there, and they were like, why did you get a Tumblr account? I'm like, okay, what is this? So I got a Tumblr. And for me, it's really easy to reblog things on Tumblr, and then it's like Facebook in that people can share really, really easily. And I actually get a fair number of followers from Tumblr because people reblog my books. They as I've been redoing my covers, they've been reblogging the covers, and I can basically look at. So if I get 16 people who reblog or like a cover, I know that that's about 100 new fresh downloads, and it's held. That's pretty much held steady, and it's especially good for people who are on Apple for some reason. I don't know, they're younger maybe, and they're more on Tumblr than they are on Facebook. But I get a lot of Apple fans from Apple iBooks purchasers from Tumblr. And it was really easy to set up, and didn't have a lot of time, and that's what I did. I mean, I built websites. That's the other thing. I don't really have a real website because I think, it was so much part of my day job, it just burnt me out.
All right. Well, that's good to know about the kind of social aspect of the Tumblr. I hadn't really paid much attention to it because it does seem to really for that younger crowd. But those are readers too, for sure, and it makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of, women our age there. So, yeah.
I'm just not the cool one.
I'm so uncool.
All right. Well, let me hand you to Joe next and see if he's got one more question for you.
Yep. All right. I want to ask, speaking of your Tumblr and really any of your social media presence, do you feel like you need to produce original content, like write a thing specifically to be a blog post, or do you think you can use them specifically just for interacting with fans and updating them on what's new?
Facebook is something that I mostly just use for interacting with fans, and although I've gotten a good number of fans from my fans saying, I'll ask them, point blank, hey, would you share this? And I always include links to my Perma-free, even if I'm talking about a new release, and they usually do. I have really wonderful fans. And then I have on Tumblr, sometimes I do original content, but I find that I have a lot more fans on Tumblr than I have actual writer followers. So sometimes I'll blog on the business of writing there, but not so much. And a lot of times I reblog pretty pictures of Loki and other Norse gods in lieu of original content, and I still get followers for it. People who like Loki don't, you always if you reblog it, it's considered fine because you always have the original author's name under it. So, yeah.
It seems like Tumblr is a service built upon reblogging.
Yes, very much.
All right, that's the only question I had, so we'll pass it on to Jeff now.
Alrighty, my last question is, there are some authors, like myself, that have had fans volunteer to edit books, provide illustrations. Would you discourage some of your fans from performing such actions, or would you smile, say thanks, and offer them an acknowledgement in your books? And yes, I fall into the latter category. I'm guilty of that one.
No, if fans offer to help edit my books, I am very grateful. I don't give them out I wouldn't give them out to the whole fan base, but I have occasionally solicited opinions on things. Beta readers have come from my fans, and I'm dyslexic, and I'll take any help editing I can get.
Yeah, same here. I've been told that there's many times I'm a really, really fast typer, and there are many times, no matter how fast I am, the fingers don't keep up with the brain. So what gets transpired to the writing, has holes. So thankfully, I've got a good friend over in England, Derek. He said, dude, what the heck have you done this time? This is going to take me a while. And then I've got another friend up in England that does a really good job drawing pictures. And he's like, hey, what would you like to see in your next book? Can I draw you something? I'm like, go right ahead. I'd love it. So yeah, it's just nice to have fans like that. I was just wondering, would you discourage it or encourage it? Sounds like you encourage it, which is cool because I do too. But I think that's it for me. Lindsay, would you like to wrap it up?
All right, I'd love to. The last thing I just wanted to, I've kind of been asking every guest is, do you think like the perma-free is going to be a good strategy going forward, or what do you think the future is going to be as far as what's effective with marketing?
Right now, it's still effective. I didn't notice Kindle Unlimited cutting down my perma-free downloads. I did notice it killing my sell-through for a while. So I readjusted my pricing, and that definitely helped. But I can't say what the future holds. It changes. It changes overnight. And something like Kindle Unlimited, that was a huge. That hurt not just some people who weren't in Kindle Unlimited, but also some people who were. I know a lot of people are going wide now because their incomes tumbled because they just couldn't make as much off of borrows, even with some of them were all-stars, and they left because even with the all-star extra $2,000 whatever bonuses, they weren't making as much. Something like that could happen anytime. So I have no idea. Just ready to be flexible.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is just to stay on top of it and see what's kind of working this month and be willing to adapt.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, for closing, I want to encourage everybody to check out your spreadsheets. Like I said, I'll put the links to them. There's just, I don't know, you must have like 100 different places on there where people can buy sponsorships.
There's about
Do you want to tell us what you're working on now?
I'm working on a science fiction story. As I'm finishing up editing the end of I Bring the Fire, but I'm working on a sci-fi trilogy. I'm not too ready to talk about it yet. It does start from a place of hate, so I'm sure it'll be good.
Very cool.
All right. Well, in addition to your spreadsheets, I hope everybody will check out I Bring the Fire. Is that the name of the first book in the series?
I Bring the Fire is the name of the first book. It's about Loki and it has dinosaurs, so how could you possibly go wrong? Yes, it's free.
All right. Please check it out, everyone. And thank you so much for being our guest today, Carolyn.
Thank you for having me. It was great meeting you all. Seeing you
Nice
in person.
talking to you.
Sort of in person. Bye.
Yep. So long.
So long.